the big question everybody always asks you, like this is a question that if you're on the Camino you will hear, is why did you do the Camino? And so I am someone who recently converted to Catholicism. Like just did my first communion. We will get into this, how I'm like, having some questions and some doubts, which is normal, by the way, on like um, any path of faith. There are these questions that you end up having. It's very normal. But anyway, so I was learning a lot about Catholicism like before I decided like, okay, yes, I want to do my first communion. I went and I was like serving in different I can't okay, I'll just do it without my glasses, it's fine. I was serving with different groups. In Spanish they call apostolados. I think maybe in English we would say different ministries. I worked with the kids. I worked with things with the adults. I literally went on a mission trip on my own, not like with a group, to go kind of see what it is to have to live in the religious life. I was hanging out with a lot of priests. This was all for me to just kind of get an understanding of what it looked like to be a part of this religion. Of course, like you can literally just go to church on Sunday and stuff like that, but because I have always loved God, my faith has been something that is like a straight line through in my life, that I felt like, okay, if I'm gonna say yes to this community, because that's what it is when you're part of the church. I think for some people it is like say yes to God, but for me, I'm like, meh, I said yes to God, but is this the community that I want to be in? Like that's where the big question. It's very cold. The big question is for me is, do I want this to be my community? Do I trust these people? Do I think that they're stewarding things great? And now I know you can be like, really, and you chose the Catholic Church? Okay, we can look at the history of all churches and there will be issues, but I just wanted to see how I felt there, right? So in that, I heard about this thing called a pilgrimage. I have heard about pilgrimages, but not in the religious sense. Like in the church that I grew up as a kid, they didn't do anything like that. We didn't do like processions or anything like that. I didn't grow up Catholic. Um, so I had never heard about this. So when I heard about that, I'm like, okay, so this is one of the things like in the recipe of what it is to be Catholic that I'm missing. And I wanted to do one internationally. So Ireland has always fascinated me. I've never gone. It's somewhere I will be going to soon, God willing. Um, I just find Ireland very fascinating. I'm Mexican and Peruvian, but I feel like Irish people are a lot like Mexican people, so I just feel like I would fit in. I'd understand, even though maybe and I'm loud and fun, but I feel like they are too. So like I wouldn't feel uncomfortable maybe in in their spaces, versus when I go to other places I'm like, ooh, I don't really know how to act, even though I'm not necessarily always an obnoxious person or like a loud person, but anyways. So there's a pilgrimage for St. Patrick where you go to the island and you literally go in a circle 3 times. You do it in a day. And they take you to do this hike, and then you go around and you do three, or you do one on your knees, and then you go to like mass if there's mass, or you at least go to church and you pray, right? And that's like one of them. And I was like, oh my gosh, how awesome! Like, perfect excuse for me to also go to Ireland, which is also a very Catholic country. So that means like I would see really cool churches. I'd be able to go to mass. It'd be easy to do all that. And so my mom, she loves YouTube. She people who she follows, she's like their fans. She gives them their likes and everything. And so she was like, well, let's see what this is like. Because I just read it in like an article with like different pilgrimages. And that one called my attention because it was in Ireland. I think I read about other ones, but because that was in Ireland, that was the one where I was like, oh, I think I'm going to do this. And I don't have to technically be there for very long or at a certain time of the year. That's what I like too. You can go and do that whenever because it's just like a walk around that island. Mm. And so I told her, and she was like, well, let's see what it looks like. So she put it on, and, we watched the video. And then I was like, all right, well, like, it looks cool. I'm down to do it. I'll have to see, like, when I have time to do it. And sorry, I'm checking the time because I have therapy. And then a video came next. You know how, like, on YouTube, like, the video, a new video will come up. And it was a girl on the Camino de Santiago. And so she starts the video by explaining like what the Camino de Santiago is, not like kind of what I did, none of that. Like she explains it, like, you know, how there were different paths, but then she was doing the Camino Frances, so she explains like how many kilometers it is and how many days it generally takes. And so I'm leaving, right? I'm like going, and my mom is like, hey, Valerie, come here. Like this is something that you would do. And I'm like, okay. So I go and I'm watching and I'm like, oh. So all I really heard was you start in France, you walk all through Spain, and you end up at like a cathedral, and that this is a very famous pilgrimage, and it takes like, she said 6 weeks. Um, and she says you walk about 700, 800 kilometers, something like that. And I was like, okay. I'm like, I think I'm gonna do that. I'll do it in 2 years. And then I did it. Because I did not train for it, by the way. Let that be known. Like with the stories that they follow, I did not train for it. Most people do, and I think it's smart to do that. I don't think any training really replaces the mental struggle you're going to go through and physical struggle anyways, but I do think it's probably a good idea to get your body like a little bit accustomed to it. I'll explain like what certain people told me they did, um, but I did not do any of that. So I this past year I also went to Peru with my dad because he's always wanted to go to Machu Picchu, and I was like, hey, neither of us are getting any younger. Let's go. You want to do this? It's something you want to do in life. You know, it's a physical thing. You're strong. Let's go. And then I was like, oh yeah, I said I was gonna go to Spain this year to go do that pilgrimage. And I'm in like a weird transitioning kind of part of my life where like I don't necessarily have that like job that it's like, oh, I have to up, or that 9 to 5. Um, and so then I was like, yeah, if anytime I can do it, probably be now, where I can like go for 2 months to Europe and not worry about a job. Because usually when I travel, I work remotely, so I take my computer with me and I can work. But I'm like, okay, like, you know, okay, fine. So then the same time I bought my ticket for Peru is when I bought my ticket for Spain. And I was like, yeah, okay, I guess I'll go do that. And then, but it was like no real thought. um, which is funny because this is very interesting because this was a big part of why I chose to do the Camino, because I'm always like over planning a bit too much. Okay, I'll stop there and then we can go into it a little bit more because I have something to do.